The full text has concluded. The exciting story begins now. Please adjust your posture and savor it slowly if you're waiting. The day Liu Ruyan's childhood friend returned to the country, Liu Ruyan stayed out all night. The candles on the 8th anniversary cake burned out. I dialed the final phone call. Her tone was displeased. Anniversaries happen every year. But this was the first time he came back after so many years. I didn't know if I could wait any longer. Suddenly, she screamed, "If you can't wait, then go die. Can you not be so pretentious?" She didn't know I was really dying. But when she found out about my death, she went crazy. My head was spinning. I pulled out the thermometer to check. Sure enough, it was 38.9 degrees Celsius. I lifted the blanket. I remembered that day vividly. With no expression on my face, I tore up the late-stage brain cancer diagnosis. The doctor looked at me with a sympathy-filled gaze. "If the fever continues, you should take medicine, drink fluids. You should say your goodbyes to your loved ones." I felt exhausted. I really just wanted to sleep deeply and escape into darkness. But today was the 8th anniversary of my relationship with Liu Ruyan. She said she wanted braised pork. I forced myself to stay awake. I skillfully pulled out the medicine box from the bottom of the cabinet. After hastily stuffing a handful of fever-reducing medicine into my mouth, Liu Ruyan had left early today. It seemed like she was in a hurry. It was rare for her to be so rushed. I hoped it wasn't what I thought it was. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, a little lost. The kettle whistled. The clay pot started to bubble over. The water foam extinguished the stove. A sharp smell rushed into my nostrils. I suddenly realized what I was doing. In my flustered panic, I burned myself with high-temperature steam. When did my memory and reactions become so dull? When I poured cold water, I hesitated, was still staring wondering at the phone screen. I should call Liu Ruyan. But unexpectedly, Liu Ruyan's call appeared first. Her voice was always distant. You know, anniversaries happen every year. After so many years, he came back and became soft. The sharp pain started at my head and wrapped around me. The sensation spread throughout my entire skull. I rubbed my temples gently. My voice was weak. I didn't even know if I could wait. Unexpectedly, she yelled it out like that. "If you can't wait, then go die. Can you not be so pretentious?" On the other end, there was a moment of silence. Then a man's strange voice came through. "Don't get distracted." The phone was quickly hung up. I turned off the faucet. The pain in my swollen wrist was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. I slowly slid down to the floor. I made a soft, muffled sound through the gap in my arm. Ping pushed its head in. Grinning, smiling, I lifted my head. Through teary eyes, I scratched its dog head. Ping was a border collie. It was rescued by me and Liu Ruyan from a stray dog shelter. The first time I saw it, it was skin and bones. Its mouth was bound by wire by a cruel person. Its head was swollen as if a bee had stung it. But now, it was growing flesh from the love it received, becoming lively and cute. I opened a can of dog food. Ping looked at it as if it had seen its mother, not even glancing at the can. It simply licked my palm gently. I heard that animals can sense abnormalities in humans. In their understanding, licking can heal wounds. Perhaps only it didn't want me to die. But if I die, Liu Ruyan can openly marry her childhood friend, right? Liu Ruyan and I had been drifting apart for months. I thought today, on our 8th anniversary, she would at least pretend to care. Suddenly, a message popped up on my phone. It was a video sent by Liu Ruyan's best friend in the group. In the shaky footage, Liu Ruyan stood in a red bodycon dress, her red lips and black hair, holding a bouquet of flowers, standing before a man in a sharp suit. Surrounded by candles, flowers, cake, and laughter overflowing from the screen, the two of them embraced deeply. Tears streamed down their faces. The group chat was filled with cheers. Say yes to him. Say yes. You two are what we couldn't move on from. Liu Ruyan's little childhood friend had returned. What about crossing tubes? My name appeared, like a stinking rock thrown into a still lake. It shattered the atmosphere. What else could I do? Just a substitute. Find an excuse, kick me out, and it'll be done. Liu Ruyan had also prepared fireworks. If everything goes well later, There will be fireworks to watch. I was so looking forward to it. I wonder which person realized it first. Crossing Choose is in the group too. Quick, retract the message. I quietly watched as the messages disappeared in big chunks on the screen. My heart felt as if all the air had been sucked out of it. A sharp, suffocating feeling like being crushed. A group of people started chatting aimlessly. They tried to cover up everything that had just happened. But I had already seen it. From the layout, it was near the Mingju Hotel. The sky darkened. The table full of food had long since cooled. The braised pork ribs Liu Ruyan wanted to eat. In the end, I ruined everything. I didn't eat, so it doesn't matter. 365/8 written on the cake seemed especially ironic. Sitting there, staring blankly in the candlelight. The candles burned down. From afar, fireworks bloomed in the sky above Mingju Hotel. It was time for me to leave. When I first met Liu Ruyan, I was still a naive and clueless college student. We weren't like this strangers to each other. She was as bright as the autumn moon, the recognized campus beauty. And I was just an ordinary guy in the crowd. Countless times, after coincidentally meeting her at the library, my heart unknowingly drew closer to hers. She was like an old classmate I'd known for a long time. From borrowing a pen from me to giving me a bouquet of red roses. Our hearts drew closer and closer. That afternoon, we encountered a beautiful sunset. The evening breeze tangled her hair. She handed me a glass of lemonade, then suddenly leaned in and asked, "Do you want to be friends or lovers?" "Ah, with you." And just like that, she kissed me with the fresh scent of mint. That was when we officially became a couple. When my dorm brothers saw Liu Ruyan's photo, they all screamed in admiration. I seriously shared the news with my parents. My mom called me 7 times on video. Her eyes sparkled with joy. She told me to cherish her, to be good to her. We were like any other couple, holding hands, going to the cafeteria, walking around the playground together. Liu Ruyan had many admirers. Even knowing she had already been claimed by a loser, people still flocked to her. It was no surprise. Someone as insignificant as Cao Deng can still attract flowers. They must think they have a chance too. Liu Ruyan doesn't like to have breakfast, so every morning I would bring her breakfast. Sometimes it was steamed buns and 8 treasure porridge. Other times it was crumbled pancakes. When I reached the classroom door, I happened to run into her roommate. She threw a bunch of love letters at Liu Ruyan. "You're quite popular." Liu Ruyan didn't even glance at them. She just shoved them into the trash can. Her roommate was shocked. Come on, at least look at them. I looked at those handsome guys who sent the love letters, each more charming than the other. Liu Ruyan lowered her head. "No matter how handsome, none can compare to my choose. If you meet one of these guys again, just handle it yourself. Don't bring me any trouble. He'll be hurt if he sees them." When I got closer and saw clearly, her delicate fingers, not used to the work actually of knitting a scarf with each careful stitch. She'd undone the scarf once after a wrong stitch. She rewound the video tutorial on her phone and started over. I don't know how many times she had repeated this process. I could only admire her patience. That clumsy look was so endearing. When I put on the scarf she made, the warmth that enveloped me made me tear up. She was a bit shy. Had she been crying? I shook my head. "It's so warm. Receiving your scarf, my whole self. I have no way to repay it. My life is all yours." Her eyes shone as she looked at me. But later I learned, the one who lived in those eyes wasn't me. She was looking past me at someone else. Occasionally bumping into someone is possible. Pretending to fall in love is possible. Getting close to me was only because I resembled someone in her heart. The person in her heart when I heard the sound of her unlocking the door and returned. I had already sat at the desk all night. Ping An was lying at my feet, already unable to stay awake. I thought countless times. In the silence of my thoughts, Liu Ruyan would come through the door, but I waited all the way until dawn. Now her appearance seemed like a dream that had been shattered. I didn't rush to greet her like usual and help her take off her slippers. A white shirt. Not the one from when she went out. Her usually neat professional hairstyle was slightly disheveled. Every movement of hers still full of grace and charm. But now, it made my heart ache. When she saw me still sitting at the desk, she paused for a moment. Still awake? Or just woke up? Just woke up. It turned out lying could avoid many of the questions to come. Our love, from beginning to end, was a carefully crafted lie. When her gaze met mine, Liu Ruyan awkwardly avoided it. I need to tell you something. Let's break up. I said it before she could. I just didn't want to hear the excuses she had ready. In an instant, I actually saw complete indifference in her eyes. Choose, what are you doing? Just because I didn't spend our anniversary with you? I slowly stood up. In these 8 years, I've been with you. All this time, I heard the sound of her bag being thrown harshly in the hallway. Stop trying to use my hardship to manipulate me. How much money do you want? Just say it. To a person on the verge of death, what use is money? I don't want a single penny. She desperately grabbed my hand. Choose. You're almost 30. Without me, you have nothing. Why would I have nothing? Liu Ruyan, you know best. The ever-glowing Liu Ruyan, of course, couldn't accept mediocrity. She started a business in college before she even had a career. I gave her all the money I had earned over the years. I borrowed a sum from my parents. Just a passionate young man, navigating the complexities of society. As one could imagine, it only resulted in a mountain of debt. When she was being pressured by debt collectors, I took time off work and went home. A frustrated Liu Ruyan called me and yelled at me. Shoes, you weren't there when I was at my lowest. Are you even a man? I stood silently in the hospital corridor, the smell of the disinfectant around me. After a while, I told her after she finished yelling, my parents were in a car accident. They were on the same bus that overturned. Glass shards mixed with the blood on their faces. I almost didn't recognize them. Liu Ruyan fell silent for a while and then said, tearfully, I knelt in front of the doctor, begging and begging. The last few words my parents left me on WeChat. I kept reading them over and over. Tears fell drop by drop. Child, your father and I have been thinking. We're bored at home. The work we're doing doesn't earn much, but the wages in other cities are higher. $180 a day, you know? In the future, we can also help you out. We've already bought the bus tickets to go out of town. Child, you must treat them well. No matter what, you must be there for each other, through thick and thin, and achieve a happy ending. How I wish that in the next moment, they would call again. Even if it's to scold me for being disobedient. But there would never be that chance again. I couldn't stand seeing Liu Ruyan sink deeper into the mire. Maybe it was because I truly loved her. Or perhaps because I wanted to fulfill my parents' last wish. I sold the house my parents had saved up for their entire lives. When Liu Ruyan found out where the money came from, she cried for a long time. She said she was sorry. She promised to repay me for the rest of her life. But the good person was still here. We survived that most difficult year. Liu Ruyan regained her spirit and started her business again. I quit my job and helped her with ideas, investing both money and time for a partnership project. I smiled through the pain, even if it caused stomach bleeding. She cried again in the hospital, hugging me. She would not just this life, but the next life, and the one after that. It was she who once denied her rise from obscurity to success. Liu Ruyan holding a microphone on stage, sharing her success. I sat in the audience applauding her. I gladly played the supporting role, even if others saw me as just a lucky guy riding her coattails. I never objected. I've never had good luck. Even when I was assigned homework during winter break, it was always the wrong pages, the missing pages. Everything around me was slowly improving, but the feelings between us were changing. When I learned that her childhood friend was about to return, I asked her, if Fang Yuan comes back, who would you choose between him and me? My hardest times, and suddenly felt heavier. You were the one who was there for me. When you asked that question, others avoided the topic. But it was obvious they had already given you the answer. People are like the parasitic when the heart is empty. It can still stand. Others think it will sprout again next year. But in that winter, it had already died. I knew clearly that Liu Ruyan was drifting while with me. and her restless emotions of love unreturned. All of them, to some extent, turned back on me. The standard answer was already obvious. But Liu Ruyan, now you don't need to choose, because I'm already dying. I will no longer entangle you. I'm dying. I no longer care. Seeing me silent, Liu Ruyan suddenly rushed over, grabbing my arm. Have you forgotten? How many times you said you wanted to break up? Is that fun? She smelled strongly of mint. Probably from the childhood friend. It turned out that the mint kiss, which once toppled my entire youth, was only because her childhood friend liked the scent of mint. You had to make a big fuss about it, didn't you? Fine. This house, although the down payment was paid by you, I've grown used to living here. I'll double the compensation. This house is mine now. I was woken by her voice. She tilted her head, watching us. In the end, my final resting place would fit me just fine. A box. Fine. She looked at me with suspicion. And then she spoke out the conditions I could never accept before. After we break up, we'll never speak to each other again. Fine. I began walking toward the bedroom, preparing to pack my things. But she followed me behind, muttering endlessly. The dog must stay with me. It's closest to me. I just turned back and warned her where the dog food for Ping An was kept, how many times it needed its water and food changed, when the next vaccine shot would be. Liu Ruyan scratched her head in frustration. In the end, Ping An, staying with a dying person like me, would only suffer, so it's better off staying here. The room was filled with things I bought for Liu Ruyan. My own things didn't even fill one suitcase. Before long, I was dragging my suitcase to the door. Kids game. I'll see how long you can hold on. After saying that, I sent a message reminding her, and snacks you like are in the cupboard. The top layer is puffed snacks. The middle layer is spicy. Try to eat less. The bottom layer is the regular medicine. I've written out the instructions for you. After sending the message, it showed a red exclamation mark. A photo popped up in my phone's album. It was a screenshot. I clicked it open. It was filled with Liu Ruyan confessing her feelings to me. It turns out she could also be a woman who writes little essays. Too bad, the story I had boasted about for so long eventually ended badly. I thought I would be the protagonist in this story, but in the end, I was just an NPC for the protagonist to flirt with. In the dark corridor, my sigh felt like a final whisper. I placed the keys in the hallway and quickly closed the door before Ping An could rush over the bustling street. The sunlight was as bright as I would always be able to see it. The piercing sunlight created cracks in the view. A tall figure blocked my sight. Looking down, I met the gentleman's smile. It really did look like him. He sighed. It was Fang Yuan. It really did look like him. In the coffee shop, he wore a clear spring-like smile and told me many stories from his childhood with Liu Ruyan. He said, Liu Ruyan was like a child. She couldn't live without him. He said, when they were little, they played house. And because another kid wanted to play Fang Yuan's wife, she bit them fiercely and had to pay for it. There were many more stories. To put it simply, in a nutshell, he was Liu Ruyan's heart's desire. You see, isn't it like there's some kind of magic in childhood sweethearts? They can stand against the world and eventually end up together. That's love. I felt it. I reassured him. He didn't need to worry. I wouldn't fight with him. He seemed a little surprised. Have you really let go? No, I haven't let go. I'm leaving. He adjusted his collar. Fine, this big city. It was never really suited for you to live in. Actually, it's better to go back to your hometown. I hope you keep your word. Otherwise, I won't be speaking softly to you about it anymore. I thought for a long time about where my hometown was. In the end, I went to my parents' grave. At that time, I thought Jinghai was home, so I buried their ashes here. I brought to bouquets of flowers and to servings of snacks. My parents always liked to order just one serving when they were alive. Sometimes they would humbly say, go ahead and eat. I don't like this. When I was around, I would have my own portion. After they passed away, they didn't need to be so humble anymore. Dad don't have a home anymore. Liu Ruyan, she has found her own place. I'm sorry, I've let you down. In the end, nothing came of it. It turns out she never really loved me. My life could be summed up in half an hour. How can I encompass it? Probably only with regret. I booked a hotel far from Liu Ruyan's home. Leaning against the taxi seat, the past unconsciously rushed into my mind. How did I first find out I was a substitute? It was when Liu Ruyan was sick with a fever. I was running around, not sleeping all night. Liu Ruyan tightly grabbed my hand. Her voice murmured, "Fang Yuan, don't leave me." Fang Yuan and she were childhood sweethearts. How close were they? She would pull on Fang Yuan's ear. Fang Yuan would tug at her braid. They grew up together, sharing a lollipop. After playing pranks and falling into a pit, they would get punished together. One spicy stick split in half, one for each. But after high school, Fang Yuan insisted on going abroad. Before leaving, they had a huge argument, and that became a thorn in Liu Ruyan's heart. One that couldn't be pulled out. People are always haunted by things they couldn't have when they were young, and Liu Ruyan was no exception for me. So I just stroked her face, repeatedly correcting her. My name is Chuzi, not Fang Yuan. Liu Ruyan, you were the one who first said you loved me. But in the end, it was me you couldn't leave. I had already sensed Fang Yuan's presence. From the first time I met Liu Ruyan's friends, everyone laughed. Her best friend covered her mouth in disbelief. Looking at my outfit, I almost thought it was Fang Yuan looked returning. At the clothes she had carefully chosen. They were all picked according to another man's style. Whose mask am I wearing? And whose role am I playing? Liu Ruyan, with a guilty expression, tried to explain to me. I just think this style looks nice. I just smiled. Her friends were even more certain that I was just a humble, submissive fool. I still gave her stomach-soothing porridge every day. I took care of everything for her. Even on the day she was diagnosed with brain cancer, Liu Ruyan publicly mocked me, saying I wasn't as good. I was caught right in the middle of it. I didn't get angry. I just asked her what she wanted to eat for dinner. I was just curious. After I die, would Liu Ruyan still think the same? Would she regret being so cruel to me while I was alive? It was just a vain hope. Who could possibly compete with a childhood sweetheart? I was just a stand-in to make up for her inability to be with. Later, I crossed over the mountain of life and death. I was just trapped by my own obsession. Once the obsession was gone, everything didn't matter anymore. Liu Ruyan, I don't love you anymore. I stayed in the hotel for several days without going out. I turned off my phone. Eating, sleeping, eating. I didn't know whether I was asleep or unconscious. I just felt like the sky never brightened. The sound of thunder rumbled in my ears. The air smelled like the earth, damp and heavy. When I gradually opened my phone, there were a lot of notifications on the home screen. I didn't know when Liu Ruyan had taken me off her blacklist, but over the past few days, I didn't reply to any of her messages. This was completely unexpected for her. It seemed to make her more agitated. Give you half a day. Come back now. We still have things to discuss. Playing hard to get, huh? Are you done making a scene? I'm not patient enough to play with you anymore. So we're breaking up, huh? Playing the disappearing act. Fine. Huh? I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. My engagement banquet is tomorrow. Come witness my happiness. After that, I'll give you back Ping An. Fang Yuan doesn't like dogs. If you don't come to take it, I'll just throw it away. After all, it was just a stray dog to begin with. The last sentence finally pierced my numb heart. I forced myself to sit up. On the entertainment news, Liu Ruyan was on the front page. I heard that as soon as Fang Yuan came back, she arranged for him to take an important position at her company. Their engagement banquet was held at the International Hotel. For this engagement ceremony, she even specifically invited the CEO of a company she was interested in collaborating with. I heard he was the CEO for the Asia-Pacific region and had never appeared in China before. Yet Liu Ruyan was able to make the connection if he genuinely came to support her. Liu Ruyan's career would soar even higher. It shows how much she truly values her future with Fang Yuan. I hurriedly rented a place, bought new items for Ping An, tittied up a little, and then took a taxi to the International Hotel. When I pushed the door open, A group of people were exchanging toasts. The air was thick with sweet and greasy smells. Liu Ruyan was wearing a pure white strapless gown, her every gesture and smile radiating elegance. Feng Yuan, with his arm around her, smiled carelessly. Childhood sweethearts. A perfect match. Feng Yuan raised his glass to everyone, succeeding in her career all these years. Liu Ruyan owes it all to everyone's support. Liu Ruyan's expression stiffened for a second. She knew very well that her current success had at least half of my contribution. One of her friends teased her. Will Chuzi come today? Isn't he the most persistent one? Didn't really leave, did he? Liu Ruyan gave a look of disdain. Him? Just a simp. I'm sure he can't let go of me. When I wave, he'll definitely come running. No exceptions. She said it with such confidence that even though Feng Yuan was clearly unhappy with Liu Ruyan's reaction, he still forced a smile. Isn't that right? Without you, he wouldn't just be miserable. He's used to you taking care of him. He'd probably end up begging for food under a bridge. Liu Ruyan was about to speak, but as she looked up, she noticed my presence. Our eyes met. It felt like the world froze. All I could hear was the sound of the wind blowing the curtains. She nudged her friend. Don't say it. I stretched my hand out. Give me Ping An back. A few people around Liu Ruyan started teasing. Isn't this the ex-husband? If he's so magnanimous, why is he even here at their engagement banquet? Not just the engagement banquet. Maybe he'll even show up for their kid's full moon celebration to give a gift. Such a loyal dog. Ha ha ha. I didn't say anything. Just watching how much worse they could get with their words. In the standoff, a pair of soft hands suddenly slipped into mine. Our fingers intertwined. I turned around in surprise. There, a tall woman in high heels with curly hair was tightly holding my hand, staring straight at Liu Ruyan. Mind your words. Judging others so casually. Don't you even check if you're qualified. Liu Ruyan, is this the kind of value your friends have? Seems like you're not someone reliable either. The woman's face was fair and delicate, her nose high and straight. She exuded an undeniable presence. I stared at her for a while, but she still felt familiar. Yet I couldn't figure out who she was. Liu Ruyan's friends, unwilling to back down, taunted. What's this? As soft man, always looking for someone to support him, the beauty tightened her grip on my hand, furrowing her brows slightly. Have you clung to so many old men that you think everyone else is the same? After saying that, she suddenly leaned her soft face against my shoulder. It's me who leaned on him, and I like mango-flavored things. I was taken aback. A little confused by the attention. Liu Ruyan's mouth twitched slightly, her hand holding the champagne shaking. But she still put on a look of indifference, trying to get under my skin. She even hired an actress? Seems like a pro. Her acting is pretty good, but your acting is too bad. It's not that my acting is bad, it's that I really don't know who she is. The beauty turned her head, her eyes shining brightly as she looked at me. You might not remember me, but I'll never forget you. You can call me Chizi. I probably met her during university literature classes. At the time, when I first came to school, I still wore braces. No one cared about me. Except you, who gave me a mango. I had never eaten mangoes before, and didn't know they had pits. I bit into it. When she got to that part, her eyes became even more passionate. You were the only one who didn't laugh at me, but helped me peel it. My brain quickly flashed back. Finally, I recalled her. Tall and thin. She had come from far away to study here. She was really smart. So smart that it was almost unreal. Xiaoyu. She nodded eagerly. It's me. Enough. Liu Ruyan suddenly went crazy, shouting loudly, if you want to put on a show, go outside. Don't do it in front of me. Her words were disgusting. Feng Yuan, seizing the opportunity, joined in. Exactly. How did so many shady people get into our engagement party? Get them out. He yelled so loudly that everyone around turned to look. Xiaoyu stepped protectively in front of me, looking coldly at Liu Ruyan. Are you sure you want to kick us out? If I leave, you'll never be able to invite me back. Liu Ruyan laughed loudly, but her eyes never left me, her words cold and firm. I have no regrets. Then, without warning, Feng Yuan picked up his glass and threw the champagne at Jiang Xiaoyu. The cold champagne made me shiver. Jiang Xiaoyu, who had been calm, you invited me here to discuss a collaboration. And this is how you treat me with champagne. Liu Ruyan suddenly looked at Feng Yuan. She's not your invited guest? I thought she was one of your relatives or friends. Then a realization hit. So the only remaining possibility was that Jiang Xiaoyu was the highly sought-after APAC CEO from Daisy Group. Feng Yuan, looking smug, froze when Liu Ruyan gasped. You are Daisy Group's APAC CEO, Jiang Xiaoyu. Everyone around was stunned. Liu Ruyan's secretary arrived late, bowling repeatedly. Sorry, Liu Ruyan. I did my research on Jiang, but couldn't find any recent photos of her, so I didn't bring one to you. Liu Ruyan stood there, still appearing noble, casually grabbing Feng Yuan's hand. Feng Yuan was in disbelief. She's making a scene at my engagement party, and now I have to apologize to her? Liu Ruyan suddenly emphasized her tone, scaring Feng Yuan. His face trembling. Reluctantly, he bowed to Jiang Xiaoyu. Sorry, Jiang Xiaoyu. It was my mistake for not recognizing your importance. Just when I thought everything was over, when I reached out for my peace offering. Liu Ruyan suddenly screamed, Chuzi, you came here today just to help this stray dog? It's not a stray dog, nor a mangy dog. It's my Ping An. And me? She suddenly asked, her voice soft. Jiang Xiaoyu pulled my arm. Is it a border collie? I saw it in the yard. It was locked in a cage, but it's all right. Liu Ruyan, is this what you call your closest person? Liu Ruyan furrowed her brow, showing a rare hint of grievance. Chuzi, can't you say one more thing? Is your silence just to persuade me to turn back? You said you'd never regret it. Isn't that right? We are already strangers. I lifted my foot and walked toward the backyard where Jiang Xiaoyu Ruyan's voice came from behind. Horse. Chuzi, you'll never regret it in your life. I'll never forgive you even if I die. You're such an idiot. A stupid idiot who doesn't understand. Jiang Xiaoyu turned around, her tone sharp. I'll never collaborate with someone as disgusting as you in this lifetime. My steps didn't stop. I reached the yard. Ping An was eagerly looking at me. I opened the cage. Ping An didn't realize that its owner no longer still wagging its tail toward Liu Ruyan's direction. Leashed it and walked out the door. Jiang Xiaoyu followed me, suddenly linking her arm with mine. Then her palm touched my forehead. It was cool, but also warm. You're burning up. Chuzi, are you sick? I'll take you to the hospital. She suddenly pulled at my arm, her concern obvious. I wanted to pull back, but suddenly, the world started spinning. With a thud, accompanied by Jiang Xiaoyu's choked sobs. When I woke up, everything was white. Jiang Xiaoyu's eyes were red and swollen. Chuzi, why didn't you tell anyone you had cancer? I forced a smile. It's not going to kill me. Don't cry, Jiang Xiaoyu. She wiped her tears from her sleeve. Nose sniffing. I wasn't crying. Okay. Back in college, Jiang Xiaoyu had always been strong. Otherwise, how could she become such an excellent CEO? She lightly punched me. Chuzi always teasing me. I propped myself up. I'm fine. Let's discharge me. Every day spent is a waste. She hurriedly stood up and pressed my shoulder. You don't want to receive treatment? Then where do you want to go? I wanted to say, just quietly wait for death. But my phone rang, pulling me back from my thoughts. It was Liu Ruyan. Where is Ping An? I want to see it one more time when I can. What does Ping An have to do with you now? Her words silenced the air. What relationship? I'm afraid it's not living well. I snorted lightly. Focus more on your fiancé. He doesn't like dogs. Wait, don't hang up. I sighed helplessly. Is there anything else, Miss Liu? I want to sell our house. Even if you leave, it won't matter. Once it's sold, there's no going back. I froze for a second, sighing deeply. She's still like this, trying to dominate my emotions. She does whatever she wants. Without a second thought, without mercy. In her dictionary, there's no such thing as yielding or compromise. I ended the call mid-sentence. Then turned to Jiang Xiaoyu. I want to travel. See the world I've never seen. Jiang Xiaoyu, who was just pouting, immediately perked up. She hurriedly took out her phone, excitedly showing me the screen. Look, Big Data doesn't lie. I saved this list not long ago. The 50 most worth visiting places in China. I pushed the phone a little farther away. I could barely see it. It looks good. She was like a child making a bet with me. She angrily hooked my pinky finger. Let's make a pinky swear. We'll travel to all 50 places. You can't die until then. When you were unconscious, I made a vow to boot her. Until you've made up for your regrets, you're not allowed to die. Is this some kind of new life extension method? It sounded like a scam, but I still let her pull me up, swaying. It made me laugh. I found the best pet resort for Ping An. Before I left, it was happily swimming in the pool. Our first stop, we went to Beijing in Zhejiang. The awe-inspiring feeling of nature really makes you forget how small life is. Where the water reaches its limits, it becomes a waterfall. When people reach their limits, it becomes rebirth. Life is vast. Mountains and rivers stretch far. But it's just this, in the nothing more. I called Liu Ruyan countless times. What should have been a 2-day sightseeing trip, Jiang Xiaoyu somehow managed to drag it out for a whole week. At this pace, I'm sure I could live for years without any issue. Our second stop, we went to Changbai Mountain. The thin cold air made me feel a bit out of place, but I was happy. Jiang Xiaoyu, wearing an orange jacket, ran around in the snow. Her cheerful laughter carried in the wind. I blocked several numbers. Liu Ruyan still called me from 7 different new numbers. You're being too much. You never block me, but you keep blocking me. I spoke calmly. The house didn't sell. Probably because I priced it too high. I heard you went to the hospital after leaving. Let me tell you, don't think you can use illness to make me back down. I'll never be that kind of humble person in my life. I interrupted her. What do you want to say? Choosy. Do you really have to wait until I marry someone else? Then I wish you happiness. I said it lightly. Strangely, she didn't respond hysterically like before. She stayed silent for a while and then hung up. I rearranged my smile and looked up at the small orange figure in the snow. She returned. Jiang Xiaoyu mysteriously pulled out a snow rose from behind. The rose sparkled under the sunlight, and it seemed as hot as a red rose. I took the snow rose and placed it on the snow slope in front of me. Only here could your rose forever bloom. Jiang Xiaoyu, promise me, never lock yourself in a world you don't want to stay in, okay? She's smart. She understood what I meant, but she didn't say anything. Turning her head, not looking at me. I wanted to reach out and touch the stray hair on top of her head, but my hand seemed to be moving farther away from it. Jiang Xiaoyu, and there are still 48 more places. Please travel them for me. I mean, you have to live a happy life. Live a long life. Like weightlessness. I fell backward. In the end, what I saw was the vast blue sky. Such a blue sky I'll never have again. My soul grew lighter, hovering above my body. I didn't look at Jiang Xiaoyu's breakdown. After crying, she contacted a professional team to handle my affairs. When she carried the urn to meet Ping An, the usually composed Ping An was jumping anxiously by the railing, clearly uneasy. She handed the urn to Ping An, who let out a chirping sound, tail wagging, as if waiting for its owner to return home. According to my earlier will, my ashes would roam the world. At the edge of the cliff, the sound of waves howling, Jiang Xiaoyu opened the urn, shouted loudly, "Choosy, come home!" Ping An leapt up repeatedly from a distance, its neck bound by a leash, its feet off the ground, its body like smoke. scattering with the wind. Ping In, like a mad creature, charged forward, finally breaking free from the leash's hold. Rushing toward the cliff's edge. Ping In, Jiang Xiaoyu couldn't react in time. Ping In jumped off the cliff. After a splash of water, it was never seen again. I reached out, wanting to save it, but I couldn't touch anything. The water surface returned to stillness, but my sorrow reached its peak. My heart ached as if it were being stabbed over and over. I couldn't bear the loss of Ping In. It hadn't even lived through a few years of happiness. Couldn't have felt that it had no home either? As the last bit of ashes were blown away by the wind, my soul uncontrollably drifted far away, heading towards a familiar direction. Looking down at the city from such a high place, I realized many familiar old places had been replaced with something new. The bakery at the intersection had closed down and was replaced by a snack shop. Maybe the cakes were too sweet. It seems that in everything, excess is just as bad as insufficiency. The photography studio where I took couple photos with Liu Ruyan was bustling. New couples replacing the old. Old replaced by new. The natural order of things. The melon vendor by the gate was shaking his fan, chatting with the old lady next to the vegetable stand. They exchanged and both slapped their thighs in agreement. Everything was peaceful. The only one not doing well was me. Before long, my soul stopped moving in front of Liu Ruyan's office. I was a little stunned. She seemed to be seriously looking at the computer, but there was nothing on the computer screen. The screensaver was still our couple photo. It was the most beautiful one we had picked together. She looked a bit haggard, with dark circles under her eyes. She must have been busy with the wedding. Her secretary reminded her. Liu He, could you take a look at the contract? You've been daydreaming for 3 hours now. She, with a startled sound, came back to her senses. She flipped the contract over and over, then closed it with a snap. She said, if I send him the wedding invitation, will he regret it and cry? Will he come begging me? The secretary sighed helplessly. Liu He, you've asked me this same question many times. If he loves you, he'll definitely regret it. Then, does he love me? This kind of thing, only the person involved knows. But Liu He isn't the one you like, Mr. Fang? Yeah, Liu Ruyan, you like your bamboo bird, Fang Yuan. Liu Ruyan remained silent, then lowered her head and flipped through the contract again. The phone buzzed, and Liu Ruyan excitedly grabbed the moment she looked at it. It was just a notification from an app. Liu Ruyan spoke to herself. You know, from childhood to now, I've never had a support. My parents divorced. No one wanted me. They only gave me money. Later, even Fang Yuan was leaving. In his hardest times, and in my hardest times, he never left. He sold the house my parents and helped me through tough times. The secretary looked at her, but if you chose Mr. Fang, of confusion, doesn't that mean you prefer him? I think that's what I should say. Liu Ruyan muttered. She lifted her head with an expression of realization. Maybe. I can't even tell anymore. When I look at him, is it him? Or is it Fang Yuan? So ironic. Liu Ruyan, you better not look back. Carry the most persistent emotions and accept my death. Yu Yuan took Liu Ruyan to see wedding dresses, with the price climbing higher. Unlike the early days when Liu Ruyan and I were starting our business, when she could only press her face against the shop window, staring longingly. Back then, I promised her that I would buy her a wedding dress. And now, she was standing on the stage, wearing the wedding dress, with a veil on her head. Fang Yuan read out the vows, his eyes brimming with tears. Liu Ruyan, do you take me as your husband? Liu Ruyan's distracted gaze scanned the crowd of guests, as if searching for something. When her eyes landed on Jiang Xiaoyu, she became visibly excited. A sly smile appeared on her face. Jiang Xiaoyu. Where's Chuzi hiding his snot? Jiang Xiaoyu's face turned icy. She took off her sunglasses, revealing her swollen eyes. Chuzi! He'll never come again. Liu Ruyan snorted coldly. How stubborn can he be? He's already sent you to spy on me. He's lost. Liu Ruyan, the only time I win. Jiang Xiaoyu slammed the hospital checkup report from last time onto the stage. He has cancer. He's already dead. Xiaoyu's tone was cold. She didn't look like she was joking at all. The report made Liu Ruyan
Still
laugh.
acting,
huh? Now, you're even pretending he's dead. Shouldn't you bring a prop
His
urn for
ashes.
the performance? They returned to the sea. Peacefully, he jumped into the sea. Can't find him anymore. Liu Ruyan held her stomach, laughing so hard
From
she
mocking.
couldn't straighten up, to laughing through tears. And finally, the tears
She
wouldn't
suddenly
stop.
reached out to the secretary.
Give me the phone. The secretary reminded her. Liu the wedding is still going on. There are so many people watching. Her voice startled Fang Yuan
My
as well.
number
Has always been unanswered. She frantically searched through Fang Yuan's pocket. She continued to dial my number on his phone. If you answer, I won't answer anymore. Can we go back to the way we were? No one answered. It was as if life had passed. Everything was lost, never to return. Her expression became more and more uncontrollable. How could he die without a word? Why didn't I know he had cancer? I suddenly wanted to laugh. Every time I told her I wasn't in her tug-of-war with Fang Yuan, she told me to just take some medicine. My body kept wasting away. I couldn't swallow my food. But she turned a blind. I too all of it. Yet I still learned to cook the dishes she loved to eat. I went to buy the trendiest dress. I gave her everything. She almost lost her balance. Stumbling backward. Liu Ruyan, do you feel heartbroken too? Liu Ruyan, you won't even feel enough pain. She suddenly ripped off her veil, tearing her hair in the process. No! No, this wedding doesn't count. Her hand, constantly trying to calm her. Liu Ruyan, calm down. It's me, Fang Yuan. You always wanted to marry me. Let's finish the wedding first. Didn't you? She used all her strength to push Fang Yuan away. I don't want to marry you. At first, I admit it was because of you, but later it wasn't anymore. Fang Yuan, I'm sorry. She took off her high heels, barefoot. Her once pristine wedding dress, and now it's ran without a second thought. To the crashing waves on the shore. She searched frantically, finally spotting that familiar dog leash. The last bit placed of hope at the cliff's edge. The never-yielding Liu Ruyan knelt in that moment. I'm sorry. Choosy. I'm sorry. I failed you. Not every I'm sorry. Bring a, it's okay. I've never made you say sorry. So this time the punishment is never seeing you again. Liu Ruyan sat still, staring at the sea for a long time. The mist from the white waves drifted back onto her face. It was time to go back. Liu Ruyan. She stood up and slowly began to walk back. I'll come to be with you. Wait for me. What does that mean? I watched her tiptoe, step by step, walking toward the cliff's edge. Liu Ruyan, what are you doing? But she didn't hear a word. No! I watched in shock as she leapt from the cliff, her white dress dissolving into the white never to be seen again. Liu Ruyan, you always broke your promises. I clearly said, wish you happiness. Her body gradually shattered and began to dissipate as Liu Ruyan's soul began to rise from the sea. Vanished into nothingness. Look! Liu Ruyan. It was too late. We were destined to miss each other. A next life. We should never meet again. I wish you happiness.